Hey everyone, it's Brooklyn here with Two Geminis with Mics. Just wanted to give you a quick disclaimer and a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about some very personal stuff to us. These are personal experiences. We aren't here to take away from anything or give advice. We are just speaking from our experiences and things that we have personally gone through. We are not doctors, we are not pain specialists, we are not therapists. We are just two beautiful humans going through the human experience, wanting to share it with you. Thanks for joining.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Geminis with Mics, where these two quirky Geminis are going to take you through a journey through the cosmos. I think that's the intro. Anyway, it's been a while. We did try to do this already, so this is a re recording. We're learning some new, not equipment, but editing
Software.
software and things. Yeah, and we're having some issues. So we're basically just gonna do a quick update about where we've been, and all of those things, because it's just too much. There's so much. And oh my god, last time we posted was March, I think. Because we were supposed to record in April when she came to visit me for my birthday, and then instead we didn't have time, and then she forgot her mic. So now she has nothing.
Just me.
Shocking.
Just me.
So yeah, oh my gosh, my brain. I think I needed more caffeine before we started this. Um yeah, so that's part of the reason we didn't. And then in May, I chose to move, and I also got evacuated due to wildfires in my area, very temporarily. And then, yeah, until things kind of evened out there, we couldn't record. We tried in June, and like I said, we had some technical difficulties. So, but other than that, yeah, it's just been trying to hold down the spirituality fort with astrology and not losing our minds.
Yeah.
And what about you, Brooklyn?
Oh, well, I have just been trying not to murder people. No, I'm just kidding.
I tell her she's too pretty for jail and she's not allowed to kill anybody. I can't visit you in jail. My anxiety will kill me.
Like with the astrology this year, we knew that life was going to be testing, but I didn't anticipate the stuff that has happened so far. So it's just been more internally challenging with spirituality and taking the shadow side of life and looking within. It's hard to put it on the back burner or to press pause for a little bit. It's constantly going. Like you are constantly being reminded how much work you are currently doing, plus how much work you've already done, plus how much work is there to come. And I think I hit my top and my pressure cooker exploded. So I had to take a little nappy nap, but now we're back. Just like
Yeah,
with family
that
and
tracks.
yeah, like family, work. I tried doing something with work and it didn't end up working out. And I didn't realize how I seen myself in a career and how much that personally affects me. Like, I just thought I could,
Like the lack thereof or the want for, or what do you mean?
well, like, how personally I take everything and how when I go and work at a job, like that is my baby. Even though if it's like I don't own the business or whatever, I just care way too much about something and put my whole
effort in, like I put all my eggs in one basket, and maybe I should put
Moon
one
in
or
the
two
10th.
eggs. Maybe I should just put one or two eggs in a basket and wait and see if they hatch before throwing them all in the
Yeah.
basket, and then none of them hatch. So that
Yep.
was that was my lovely year. But now I'm doing much, much better spiritually, mentally, physically. For a while, it was a struggle, but such is life,
Yeah.
the circle of life.
And I think it's just the natural progression of things where you move forward, but you take a couple steps back sometimes, and then it becomes something where you're like questioning your worth over it. And it's not necessarily something that your worth needs to be questioned over because that should not define you. And not you as a person. I'm also kind of speaking vaguely about my own experiences,
And
like
just like
moving
people in
and things
general,
like
like
that.
so many
So,
people do this. And it was like a big mirror moment. And I just really needed to take a step back and figure out what I truly want and what makes me happy. Because if I'm not happy,
and I think that's one of the well, that's the point of life, right? Is figuring out how to be happy where you're at. I think that's kind of what I've decided because, like, if we keep fighting for happiness, it's not a tangible end goal. Like, how do you define happiness? For me, I think that you have to learn to be happy where you're at. I'm not saying that situations can't improve. Like, I'm very blessed in the current moment that I'm in to have a lot of really good shit around me. So, like, I don't that it's not fair to assume everybody can do that, but I think getting yourself to a place where you feel emotionally safe, physically safe, and you have the basic human needs. I think in our world, because there's such a gap between the poor and the rich, that it almost becomes that's kind of what we've got to fight for because you know what I mean? Like it's the only way to universally kind of find happiness without trying to run forward to something that might not be fully tangible yet. And then when you get there, then the ironic thing is that manifestation gets easier and all of those things start to kind of come into play. And I mean, I'm talking from a point where I'm just trying to make the best of the situation I've got. I've got a good situation, so that's it's unfair for me to put that assume other people can do that, but I just mean like I this is not my endpoint, but I'm trying to figure out what my endpoint is, where I want to be while still maintaining the gratitude that this spot deserves because it's kind of comes back to that stop to smell the roses thing. Like if you're always looking for the next point, you never get there.
yes.
So,
The Power of Now is really good for that. That's really one of the books like that I keep going back to because it's helped me in so many different ways through healing. The biggest thing for me was my endo pain and my pinched nerves because I kept getting pinched nerves, like just in different weird places in my body. Like I had it in my arm, I had it in my neck, I had it in my other arm, I had it in my shoulder. Like I just kept getting these weird pinched nerves. And then
yeah.
I realized the pressure and the stress I was putting on myself for other people because of I thought what other people's expectations of me should be my own. And anytime I did fulfill those expectations, they still weren't satisfied, and same with me. And then I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. What about me? Where's
Mhm.
what does it look like for me to fulfill my expectations? And then just
Mhm.
because I'm a people pleaser, I keep going back to that. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. And then I can feel like I'm
Yeah.
almost there, like almost there. It's like I'm almost at the top of the mountain, and then I stumble and fall all the way back down to the bottom. But we will get over that mountain one day. We
But
will.
is it the bottom? You know, like, is it the bottom though? Because you learned something. Like, you
True.
learned that you're people pleasing. You learned that you're doing things for other people. And one of my favorite things that I've only learned to do in the last like maybe 2 months is to stop and be like, is this on me? Am I taking this on and it's somebody else's? Because, and then it's usually followed with, why am I worried about what this person might think of this decision that I'm about to make? I am a grown ass woman. I make my own money. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just funny how we're taught to make ourselves so much smaller because we're females. Well, in general, as humans, like, you know what I mean? I mean, a lot of cases we're taught that too. Like, no matter
Definitely.
how
And it
unique
depends
or
on,
different you are.
yeah, and it depends on status and society, like where you should be on the totem pole in society. And it's just like,
Mhm.
oh, that is
Mhm.
all just made up.
Yeah.
We're our own little totem
Now,
pole. We put ourselves at the top, and then everything else falls down.
yeah, and then it's just taking care of yourself emotionally because the only person who's got you is you. Like, you can't
Yes.
trust the other people to get you. Like, even your best friend, I love you, but it is not your responsibility to catch me. I have to catch me. Your support.
Well,
You know what I mean? You're just the
exactly.
support.
Yeah. And that,
Mhm.
like, for me, that was a huge thing for relationships because, like, for me, I used to put everything on the guy. And then I would try to do like the wifey duties. And then it just like, seeing certain things up close and living through things, you're just like, maybe,
What's
maybe things.
that quote? Doing wifey shit for something. Doing I've
Uh,
seen it somewhere. I don't know. Sorry, I cut you off for no reason. Go ahead.
uh, doing wifey things without the stat or like the wifey label or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
like,
and, like, it's funny.
well, and it's also to me, this is one of the reasons why I've had such a hard time with marriage in general, is because I've been engaged twice, and anytime I've been engaged, the expectation of me and my duties have become apparent and obvious. But then when it comes to them, it's a different set of rules and a different
Yeah.
expectation. And I just don't feel like that's what relationships should be about. I feel like it should be about partnership and both of you bringing things that, like, not everyone is good at everything. So some things some people are better at, and that's when you work together and you collaborate
Mhm.
together and become a partnership.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, and to me
But we
that,
gotta remember, like, the women are healing and the men are kinda staying in the same spot in a lot of ways. Not all of them. Some of them are stepping up, but, like, there's some that are just so
well,
stuck in the old way, right? Yeah, I just think that, like, the expectation is so different on both genders, and I mean just the genders that were assigned at birth, because yeah, anyway, that's not mine to speak on, but it's just really unfortunate that we get all these pressures just by the gender that we're born at birth. And I think it's absolutely fascinating when you go backwards and you look at how recent some of the rights are that women have obtained. It's like the last 50 years or so that women were able to own property and get credit cards and stuff, and like without a husband. And like, so my life right now as a 34-year-old woman would not be able to exist. And that's insane because, like, my parents are in their 60s. That's not that long ago. My grandmothers probably could not have had these things at some point in their life. And I think that is insane. And we take a lot of that for granted sometimes. And I don't think that a lot of men understand that. And
no, because
that's
it's,
unfortunate.
oh, well, a lot of people, I find it has to do with empathy because they can't understand or see where we're coming from. And sympathy is a little bit different than empathy, and that is because you can have sympathy but not understand where someone's coming from. But then as soon as you feel like those feelings, you're just like, oh my God, I would never do that to someone. And then it just like,
Mhm.
it puts a different lens on it. And I find it very interesting to see that, because for
Yeah.
me, I try to be around people that are empathetic because I am. Because I find that people that
Yeah.
aren't, it's hard
Yeah,
to have
I agree.
conversations with,
Yeah.
because they
I can't
see the
handle it.
same.
I can't have people in my life who are not empathetic. I've that's something I've learned only in like the last few months too. If you don't have empathy, I like literally just I don't understand you. Like I can't cannot compute.
To me, it's like the new ick. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you really need healing.
It is. It's a total ick now. And I'm so happy that's one of my icks because I think that is such an important one.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, because that's how change creates. You know what I mean? Like, if people stop
Yes.
finding that attractive, like,
And
I
I've
get it.
seen, so if you are not an empathetic person, you can become one. Just saying, I've seen it happen. I know a few people that were definitely not empathetic before, but then did some healing. And then we're like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And then it,
Yeah.
it's literally the healing process, because it goes back and forth, back and forth. Like
Yeah.
some moments you go through
Yeah.
anger, grievance, like you go through a lot of the emotions. And then you get to empathy and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
I hate this. And it's funny because I've never lived my life without empathy. So when I walk into somebody who doesn't have any empathy, like just sitting there like gobsmacked. I'm like, you literally can't comprehend the fact that how that would feel. Like I don't know. And I remember talking to somebody, a man who had very little empathy. There's been a few of them, but one in particular who used to tell me that I had more enough empathy for the two of us. And I was like, no, the world can always use more empathy, hun. I'm sorry. But all right. The things we tolerate, man.
I know. And I think the empathetic women are the ones that are going to be the lights in the world that help lead people to, I don't want to say world peace, because I feel like that is not far fetched,
So
but
far away.
yeah. And like, I do believe it. I do honestly feel like one day we will come to world peace, but I feel like it's going to take us a lot to get there. But I feel like with the new movements that have been coming into play, like the B4 and all that, I feel like if you don't get on the boat, you're going to sink. And we're all
Well,
here
that's
for
what I
it.
mean. Like, I just,
The majority of women are here for
yeah.
it. We would rather go extinct than have y'all keep murdering and killing and just doing bad things to each other, because we don't want harm. We want love. We want
Yeah.
companionship, community. We want to be able to thrive together and not stab each other.
Well, like the whole point of life is like connection and love and beauty. And like, everybody's like, what's the purpose of life? And like, the more you lean into spirituality, the more you learn that that's the root of most things that have been created over the millennia. And they just get completely like bastardized, I guess is a way of putting it. Like they just get completely strewn and taken for people's power and how they can be used to manipulate people. Like no matter the religion, no matter what you believe in, like the root of that more often than not is rooted in something that's meant to be beautiful and then it's just taken to an extreme. And that can be done with spirituality too.
Yep.
Like there's cults and shit that
It's
I'm
all
sure are being
intention.
created.
Yeah, it's all intention. It's all what your intentions are. And from like the Korean Métis, it's your intentions have to be good and pure. Like no bad thoughts of others, no bad thoughts of selves. Like it's all for the good of creation, the love of creation. And to me, that is
What
just like
I don't know if I've ever asked you this. I know I haven't asked you on the podcast, but like which tribe is your family from?
the Cree is Woodland Cree. So that's like northern Alberta area.
Mm.
And then my Métis side is was part of like the Red Rebellion, so near Manitoba, and they were, I think, on the Quebec side, and then came over to the Manitoba side after the Red Rebellion War or whatever it was.
So
Some
cool
big
that
fight.
you even know this because, like, I know I have indigenous roots on my mother's dad's side, but I don't know beyond that. And I think it's super cool when, because, like, I mean, in Newfoundland, that wasn't something that they talked
Yeah,
about.
that was something that they openly hid a lot of the times because
Yeah.
of the Canadian history. And like my Métis side, we hid until like 2023, 2024. And then we found out we were Métis and we found out where our family came from and all this stuff. Because before then, we were brought up thinking we were Mexican. Because the
Yeah, I remember
Mexican,
that.
it,
I
yeah.
think I remember it. Were you working at Bell when that, like, came out that you were like, it wasn't Mexican?
So I told one of our coworkers. So this is where I got confused because it
Oh,
happened when I was like 13 or 14. So it was like a weird time for me because I didn't really know a lot of my family history. I only knew some of it because I was indigenous, and back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was still hush hush. Like you didn't talk about it, you didn't nothing. And if you were whitewashed, you were not native
yeah.
because
Well,
you were
the last residential school to close was like mid 90s, wasn't it? Like 96?
1994 in Kamloops.
Yeah. So,
I was born in a small town not far from there. And yeah, like and
yeah.
that was the thing was it was the the residential schools was to take the Indian out of the boy. That was the quote that they said. And if they felt that
Which
you
was like
needed,
every type of thing that they did to the indigenous was to do that, really, like
well,
to
it was
take
to
the
make
yeah.
them forget their ways and go the white way, and the white way. And yeah, it was crazy. So, and growing up, we were indigenous people are more likely to go missing, murdered, kidnapped. So from a very very young age, I was brought up saying you're not indigenous, you are white, you will be more protected that way. And if I went missing and I was a white child and not an Indian or native child, I would more than likely be put on an Amber Alert or more likely to be found or blah, blah. Like, this is the stuff I grew up with.
Yep.
This is the kind of stuff that, like,
Yeah.
we grew up hearing about and learning about. And, like,
I've
it's
had
just,
friends from different heritages say similar things too.
yep,
Like
it's
they
really
weren't
sad.
indigenous, but they've said things like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I all I know is that our heritage is very deeply hidden from the because my family's from Newfoundland, and we just know that on my father's side, so my mother's side, we know that my great grandmother was indigenous, but on I don't know what I don't know much more about it. And then we know that my grandfather on my dad's side was placed on one of the, what do they do? Census. He was checked off as indigenous on a census, but we don't know if that was an error. We have no idea. So it's really fascinating to look back and be like,
Well,
wow,
if
people
you
were
look,
just completely told to be ashamed of who they were, right? And that
definitely.
wound
And when I go
continued.
back on my ancestry and look at the census reports, none of them are consistent from their birthdays to where they were born. It changed. And I could not imagine going through that time, like 3 to 100 years ago, and like, say Manitoba was a different name, and then 4 years later you do your census report and the town of your, or the name of your town has changed. You're still in the same area, but you're putting a different town on your
Mhm.
census report. Like, I had one relative that I followed through census, and his birth date, the year and the date kept changing. And to me, I'm like, is that PTSD, or is that trying to hide? Or, like, there's so many questions I have because they would change
Or
their
did
birth.
that person write it down because it was written by hand, so it's like, did that person hear it wrong and write it down? Because I was doing the same thing with my Newfoundland heritage, and, like, even just seeing I know this was so normal back then, but even just seeing the ages of, like, women in my family when they were married off
Yep,
was like, "Excuse me?" Like, I understand it was normal for them, but that does not make it right. Like,
literally. Like, between the ages of 14 and 22 is the average until my grandma got born, and I think she was like
yeah.
23 when she was married.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nuts. It's
Insane.
truly insane. Like,
And before, back in the day, sometimes they would get married to run away from their current situation. And sometimes they were just married off
yeah,
because they needed to pay a debt or whatever.
and
Could you
sometimes it was
imagine?
because they got impregnated and then they had, yeah, just like, it's nuts.
So wild.
It's
So
nuts.
wild. I got something in my eye. My eye is like so red. I like poked it and it's like really irritating and it's just like spreading. And I'm like, oh, great.
Like,
Looks like I
what
got
is
some
wrong with
eye.
us though? Like, every time we try to record, it's an absolute mess now. Like,
And we
where's Mars
switched.
in the
Uh,
sky? Is this
right?
Saturn retrograde?
Right. We're in a Saturn retrograde.
I'm
First
down, man.
Mercury and
Like, as
then,
soon as it starts going
and,
backwards. Yeah.
oh my God.
Oh,
And we're
that's next week,
literally,
hey? The shadow phase of Mercury retrograde.
and we're halfway through the eclipses. We're at the halfway point.
Yeah. Yeah. We get through another, it changes signs, one of the two in the fall. In September, it goes to Pisces. So we're going to start the Pisces Virgo axis. Girl, that is your rising sign.
I know. It's insane.
Oh my god. Mine's going to be, I think mine's going to be like moving again and stuff because that'll be my fourth and 10th house. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to hit my 10th house first. So we'll see. But, like, yeah, we've got some heavy astrology coming up in the next couple of weeks. Like, right
Months.
before Mercury retrograde, we're going to end up with a Uranus Mars conjunction in Taurus, which is right on my moon, like by a degree, I think. But it's definitely, it's, if it's not on my moon, it's on my Saturn. And, like, 0 out of 10 on there. Don't want to be doing that. So I'm hoping because it's in my 12th house, it'll be internal because I can handle the internal shit. I've done enough of it. But, like, no, not stoked, not excited. I think it's gonna be very sudden changes, very sudden, irritating breaking down of structures. Like, it's gonna be a little agitating, I think, for everybody. But
Yep. It's going to be
mhm.
different. But I did want to
I think
chime in
globally it'll
and,
be worse.
what?
I said I think globally it'll be worse than, like, just personally. Like, usually personally those things aren't always horrendous unless they're hitting a bunch of stuff in your chart. But yeah, I think with all the wars and stuff, it's just not something you want to see coming. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, hate it.
It is.
Hate it. Anyway, what were you gonna say? You were gonna say something else.
Well, I feel like we should let people know that we are going to be making some changes moving forward.
Yep, we're gonna try.
We're going to try to be making some changes moving forward. We're not going to give away what we're doing quite yet, but we just want to give a little tease of some upcoming projects that me and Keisha are looking at doing. We're still going to be the two Geminis with mics, but we'll have some individual content on our page for y'all because
Yep.
getting us both together at the same time seems to be a little bit more difficult than we thought it would be.
Not all the time, but
But
Little Miss over here likes to work 2 jobs. So
and
no, just kidding. Totally.
and we've, like we said, we got some new recording software and it's been a little bit challenging to figure out. So we have recorded a couple, but they were just, the audio wasn't working, my stuff was all messed up, and it was just
Yeah. Even
not
today, I'm
going
not sure
good.
how it's gonna go, but I'm hoping for the best. Like I'm talking over her because it's skipping on my side, so I'm hoping that that's not gonna show as much on the actual end recording. But we've also got to figure out our Patreon. We haven't figured out entirely what we're doing with that. Are you laughing at me because of the tissue?
No, someone's being a little turkey out there.
A little perky?
It's just making me
Oh
laugh.
no, Fred's barking. I can hear him. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, so we're gonna try and do some more posting on like Instagram and TikTok. I think our goal is we're still gonna try and do at least 2 of these a month, more if
Mhm.
possible, because we want to be able to put clips up as well. And then eventually, I'm hoping we'll be able to bring some paid content to Patreon, but we're having some difficulties getting that figured out. Who knows? Might even be OnlyFans. Not nude, just OnlyFans. Doesn't mean nude.
People
Like,
are
right?
on their
Like, they
computers
like, yeah, they
instantly.
went the total opposite way.
All of a sudden, our
We're
views
just
go up
naked all of
because
a
you
sudden.
mentioned OnlyFans. People are like, "What?" It's like, yes,
Yeah,
for
right?
tarot reading and
It's
astrology,
like,
clothed. What?
right? Oh my god. But, like, it's just funny because OnlyFans gets the reputation for porn, which obviously, whatever, but, like, there's a lot of other content.
No, but that's what I mean. It's just
It's
so funny.
it's
Like
just the
people just
highest paid ones are
automatically.
porn.
I know people automatically think and assume, and this is like the assumption thing, and it's like surprise.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could put our more, like, weird, uh, less clean, like, because I swear like a sailor. We could put
Well,
stuff
and I
like that up
have
there,
been
you know what I
watching
mean?
a few like YouTube things, and some people do swear, so I think we should be okay. Like, I don't think we need to watch
Yeah.
our mouths too much. Just saying.
Yeah, because, like, I say a lot of shit. I talk a lot of shit. Gemini, man. Talk a lot of shit. That's what it is.
It happens.
Right? Like, but yeah, eventually I'd like to do some type of astrology reading, but I just don't know. Or astrology course. I don't know where I'll land. I think I'm just trying to let the universe guide me in that because like it has not been wrong so far between like getting my life together. I just get these gut feelings. I'm like, okay, this is the right decision right now. And then I'm like, okay, this is the right decision right now. So I'm hoping as we ease into this, I'll just know what feels correct for me.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna do something with tarot, but I haven't figured out. I'm either gonna do like a story tell or a pick a card or something like that.
Ooh,
It's been
story tell though. Like what if
it's
you used it?
literally been brought to my attention that I'm wiser beyond my years and I've lived many lifetimes. So I've had a lot of people ask me advice through my experiences. And I feel like because I have a lot of them,
You've been
I'm
in some weird situations, girl. Like, I'm still hearing all of them.
and that's what I mean. Like there's literally so much stuff that happens to me in a span of a day, let alone a week, let alone a month, let alone a year, that I think the cards would help. I feel like the cards would help me tell my story. So I'm just trying to figure out, because I want it to be authentic. I want it to be me and my personality. And I don't want to copy anyone because I feel like that's done too much, you
Yeah,
know?
we wanna be as unique as we can and
Unique and
while bringing
authentic.
something slightly different, and I think that yeah, and I'm thinking mine will end up being some type of affirmation for astrology in the beginning, just to ease myself into it because it is hard to get out there and be like, "This is how I read astrology." That is terrifying. I'm sorry. Like, especially because it is something that is just so made fun of in our culture in a lot of ways. Not all the time, but just a little bit, you know? And even in my family sometimes. So it's just one of those things that you're like, I'll get over it. I'm just a little, imposter syndrome gets us.
Definitely. And this spirituality train is a whole universe of its own. And we're just hopping on, enjoying the ride, and seeing where it takes us.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we're going to sign off and hopefully we'll be back with more than just an update next week. We have things that we do want to chat about and have fun with, and we'll continue that journey as soon as we can. It's lovely seeing you guys, chatting with you, and we'll do it again soon. Bye.
Bye!